Well, g'day folks, how you going? Tom here, and welcome to yet another installment of the Art of Landscape Photography video series. And it's great to be back running workshops, and it's great to be showing you some fresh material from all the work that we've been doing in the last few weeks and months. Of course, this is now our second workshop for 2021, the second workshop that we've run in the space of about 14 months. And so it's great to be here. I hope you enjoy this short presentation I'll be doing on our most recent workshop here at Karijini in the Pilbara of Western Australia. Now, I do firstly have to apologise. I am not in the most glamorous of places in doing this presentation. I'm actually in between workshops where I have just a few hours to be recording this. We've had an eventful week here in Karijini. I'm running another workshop here this week, but the last workshop we had ran a bit of overtime, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. And in the meantime, I've just pulled into Paraburdoo in the remote Western Australia, and in order to find power for my laptop, I actually had to go to a cafe where they didn't have power, order a coffee and croissant. Of course, I found this out afterwards. And now I'm actually sitting outside the shopping mall where I have found an external power point. And in the meantime, I'm looking across to the Corellas making a noise, the playground, and there's a guy on a ride-on lawnmower cutting the grass. So, I've been in more glamorous places, of course, in order to record these, but that shouldn't matter. At the end of the day, what I'm looking to do is show you some pretty raw files from our trip. I've had very little time to look through these. I only downloaded most of this stuff last night, and so can't wait to share these with you. Now, what you're seeing here on the screen is, of course, Julie and Steph, good friends who came along. That Corella's going to bloody chime in every 5 seconds, isn't it? Go away! So they're on the road here. This is our first day. This was, let me show you where Paraburdoo is. So let me show you where Karijini is and everything else. No, I haven't got a map and I haven't got connection to the internet, but you know where it is. We're in Pilbara of Western Australia. Now, of course, we had that cyclone that went through Geraldton and the like only last week. And with that, it dragged up a whole lot of moisture off the WA coast. There are about 2 or 3 systems that were unusually close to one another off the coast. And whilst the cyclone went through and didn't disrupt our flights, what it did do is it created a diagonal rain band that extended all the way from sort of southeastern Australia all the way across the Bights into WA, and it dragged a whole lot of moisture off the ocean, the Indian Ocean, and it dumped it in the Pilbara whilst we were at Karijini. I'm going to tell you more about that in a sec, but unusually we actually rocked up here in Paraburdoo, and this is Mount Bruce in the background here. This here is Mount Bruce. This is the second highest mountain in Western Australia. You can climb that. We rocked up on the first day, which was last Monday, and the 12th of April, and there were clouds. Now, I've been out here and rarely seen clouds, so this time of year to have any clouds at all, particularly clouds this thick, is very unusual. So it was a sign of things to come. Should have known that. This is going to be a presentation where I'm going to show you a little bit how to Lightroom, but also show and tell. So bear with me as I just correct some of these photos, because I hate showing them to you without them being correct. This one here is an iPhone shot. Just correct the angle here. I've just gone into the crop tool, and hopefully by clicking that angle, no, I wanted to click auto. No, that's done a poor job indeed. So let's just Control Z on that one there. Let's click off this angle, and let's just do it all manually. That should have come up with a grid to show us to do that. We can click auto on this if we wish to see if that's going to do it any better. It hasn't done much to it because it's already an iPhone picture that has already been crunched and manipulated in the first place through the phone software. Double click on the word effect. Let's draw a gradient in there. That's looking horrible. Don't know why you do that. There's way too much color in that. So we can just, whilst we're in the gradient, let's just take out some of the color in the sky there, and that looks a fraction better, a bit more moody, so to speak. So this was our first afternoon getting into the Pilbara and on our way to Karijini Eco Retreat, which is where we stay for a couple of days. Now, this was the sort of dark storm clouds that we had just coming in towards us just before sunset. So I popped up the drone and just above the trees here to put this panoramic stitch together of this rainstorm coming towards us here. As you saw from these raw files, we've got something like a 5 pano stitch here in order to pop this all together, and that's come out pretty nicely. We've got a 35 megapixel shot here, DJI pano, 8,600 pixels across, which is roughly close to 30 inches across just with that photograph there. So if you're ever shooting with a drone and you're thinking to yourself you want more megapixels, you want to be able to print the file bigger, just shoot more frames and stitch them together just like I've done here. And that came out really nicely. Let me show you the way it came together before I worked it. That was the original photograph once all the photos have been stitched, and then I created this afterwards. What I'll do is I'll just create a virtual copy of that. Lightroom, create virtual copy. Let's just reset this photo and I'll show you what I did to correct it. First and foremost, just to make it brighter, you'll notice that it has sort of a bowing effect from the stitch. And so we'll go here to lens corrections, manual, and we can just use this distort here just to drag this so that the horizon's a bit more level, okay? And we can click constrain crop just to crop out the white, okay? And then we might use the crop tool just to level that off a bit more. It's done a reasonable job. You could obviously fix that up in Photoshop as well. Let's do that even more. The more we drag that across to the right, the more that's leveled that out. But what you'll see is it's stretched it to the left and right quite badly. So we can go in here to transform, and with the aspect tool here, you see we can stretch it even more, which we don't want to do, or we can squish it together. Go back to the crop tool. We've actually got a little more top and bottom there, not a lot. And we've kind of corrected. That's, let me show you what we started with. That's what we started with, and that's what we've ended up with there, okay? So clearly there's a few things that we need to fix with this photo as well. Just taking the exposure back to 0. It's a little bit underexposed. I was exposing for this bright highlight over here, so everything else is pretty dark. So what are we going to do to fix that? Well, certainly we can up the exposure here, but really what we want to do is make the inside of this photograph brighter rather than the outside, which it is at the moment. Let's go down here to effects. Let's put a vinaigrette on it, which is working out very well, a quite heavy one. And then we'll go back into here and we'll put a radial filter in the middle. A radial filter. Now that's, double click on the word effect. Let's use the whites just to increase that, because I don't want to do exposure, otherwise all this will look a bit wishy-washy. Now we want to do the inside, not the outside. At the moment this is adjusting just the outside, so let's reverse that, invert it, and therefore now we've just increased the brightness in the middle of that photograph there. Let's go back to that vignette, that's way too heavy, so let's fix that. And let's darken this sky and make it a bit more moody with a gradient filter here. Double click on effect, drop that mood there. The other thing that's really lacking here is some color. So let's go in here and up the saturation. It does look like we've just blown out that highlights, just as a slither along there. I'm not minding that too much. Let's add a little bit of magenta, because the world always needs a bit more magenta. That's not a bad result, not a bad result. Let's play very dark and moody type of shot, probably not to everyone's cup of tea. Quite grainy as well. I'm finding these Mavic RAW files, the DJI files, and I've seen complaints on the internet about this as well, that they are very noisy even at ISO 100. This was shot at ISO 400, so particularly noisy. Okay, 60th of a second at f5. Let's go down here to the detail here in Lightroom. The default is that we'll add about 25% color noise reduction. Let's take that up to 50%, and you'll see the difference here. That's without any color noise reduction at all, and that's with a 50% reduction. There is some luminance noise in there too, which is just that grain that you'll see. So let's increase the luminance noise reduction. The problem with that is that it makes the file look very fuzzy, because basically what it's doing in order to get rid of that luminance noise or that grain you're seeing is that it's basically just softening the file, so to speak. It's making it fuzzy just to hide it. Look, that's not a bad result to get to where I want it to be. That was a nice little pano shot. There's more of that here. So onwards and upwards we go. Look at this, the bloody rain came over the top of us and it drenched us. First time I've been rained on in Karijini. But hey, look, what was waiting for us? A really nice yummy meal. They do great meals at the retreat. It's about the only place to stay unless you're going to be camping. And we eat like kings and queens. It's very nice. That was a barramundi fillet. Yum, yum, yum. This is a kangaroo loin steak. Just playing around with the portrait feature on the iPhone. So this is without that portrait feature, and this is with it in there. It keeps the front sharp, but then blurs the background really nicely, much like you do with a portrait lens using an f1.2, 1.4, whatever it might be. So it's done a great job there. That does not look particularly appetizing, but that was, in fact, I think the crocodile curry, which was very yummy too. And there's a sirloin steak. God knows why I'm showing you those photos. The next day we woke up to a beautiful sunrise. So here you go, the guys just heading down into Karijini Gorge. Karijini Gorge is a great little gorge for us to explore as one of the first gorges here on the workshop. It's not very steep to get into there, so to speak. It's quite wide, and it's great for shooting reflections off the water, etc. That was the morning we had, which was lovely. I didn't shoot a lot of pictures on this workshop too, by the way. So if you're thinking, oh, where are the shots of this, that, and the other? Simply because I was busy instructing. My focus is primarily on instructing. But also I have many of the shots already. No need to take more. This is a brilliant set of, what am I looking for? Paperbark trees. They must be very old. Down in Karijini. This is a very thick trunk. This again is taken with the iPhone. I'm now using an iPhone Mini 12, the iPhone 12 Mini, and it's got, as with the another few models of the iPhone, they've got that wide-angle lens, and I find it's very much like a wide-angle lens that you're using on a camera. So I'm using my iPhone a hell of a lot more than I used to, and so this is taken. It's interesting to look at all the details there. 1/20th of a second at f2.4, ISO 250. Anyway, so we've got that shot here. And then when you come down into the gorge itself, it's got some really nice little waterfalls, as you can see here. Now, one of the purposes for coming at this time of year is twofold. One, the water is warm and nice to swim through, but the second is that there's plenty of water around, being the start of the season, so to speak. And so lots of water running through the gorges at the moment, and some really nice patterns on the ground. So you can, Karijini is one of those places where you can shoot big picture type photos, panoramas, classic landscape shots, but you can also shoot a lot of beautiful macro detail shots. There's plenty to be had. This is inside Karijini Gorge there on that particular morning. A lovely morning just to be out photographing. But, and here's my mate Antonio, who I've known for about 15 years, and it's taken me that long to get him along on a workshop, and he's come along, and we're both wearing the signature specialised hats. He kindly brought one of these along for me. He's a very keen cyclist. He owns this cycling shop in Sydney. So if you need a bike, make sure you go and see him, and he'll look after you, I'm sure. We found this beautiful slab of rock that was fantastic foreground interest to this photo looking through Karijini Gorge there. As I always say, when using a wide-angle lens, in the foreground that sets the mood for the rest of the picture, and get in close, we are less than about a metre or so away from that slab of rock, okay? So less than a metre away, not very far at all. Here's another version of that same photograph. Again, just taken with the iPhone 12 Mini, raw file, 12.2 megapixels. You can see the file size up here. So I can identify through this presentation which photographs I've taken with my real camera, in inverted commas, versus the iPhone, based on the number of megapixels here that it says up the top. Now, if you're wondering how to bring that up, go into, not Telstra Air, go into View, and go into View Options. And here it says top label, bottom label here, you see, and top label here I've got megapixels, and bottom label I've got rating and label, okay? So if I mark it as a 5-star, I'll see that at the bottom of the photo, and at the top of the photograph I can see that it says megapixels, okay? So I don't have to click on each individual photograph to see whether I've taken it with the iPhone or not. You can often tell by the photograph itself too, because this has been sharpened by the iPhone software, so I can tell already that's an iPhone shot. You get lots of these beautiful fig trees growing out of the crevices and cracks along each of the gorge walls, and it's just remarkable how they even survive. It really is amazing. Here's another one here. Look at that root system just going through the wall there. I don't often get a chance to have Cocoa Pops, but I did indulge, and they do a very nice coffee as well. Well, that was the morning, because by the afternoon, it went a bit feral. The forecast was for there to be thunderstorms, and we didn't believe them because the morning was so nice. But by about 11, 12 o'clock, this is what happened. Now that lasted on and off for about 3 or 4 hours, in fact most of the afternoon. I've never seen it rain at Karijini before. It does of course rain, but generally sort of in the November, December, January, February, maybe March. By April, the temperatures drop rapidly from high 30s, 40s, all the way down to sort of low 30s, which is much more pleasant to run a workshop, and the rain disappears. In fact, I've only ever seen 1 or 2 clouds at Karijini before, and that was many years ago when I first came. Since then, always bright sunshine, blue sky. This was a bit of a head spin, to tell you the truth. Yet, nonetheless, it was forecast, and so here's you can see it sort of coming across in the distance here. This is taken from the restaurant where you just saw that last video. So this was coming in from the northwest. It's being dragged off the Indian Ocean, and it was creating quite a stir, so to speak. And so we didn't let that deter us. We still got out and took some photographs and went for a drive. However, you got some pretty moody skies. We were trying to get some shots here with the storm fronts coming across. Very hard to get up high and get a decent shot at Karijini above the trees, because the trees grow everywhere, and so it's hard to, even if you are up high, to get a clear view of the surroundings, so to speak. We found this sort of forlorn tree and created something more like this as a bit of a moody shot. This has probably got, now looking at this again, this was one that I did work. This has probably got a little too much. In fact, this doesn't look like a RAW file. Oh, that's taken with the phone. So is this probably. Yeah, let me just work this file for a second. We're trying to create a mood, so I'm going to desaturate it. It's not a happy photo, it's quite a moody sort of shot. So I'm going to go effects and create that vignette. I'm also going to darken the sky just to add to the mood of it all. So let's just drag that down. And then maybe even a grain, like a clarity slider, you see how the clarity slider just grunges this picture up even more? And so with that, I've created a bit more of a mood based on what we were seeing there. Heaps of clouds around, and so it made for great cloudscapes, shooting all these amazing cloudscapes that were in and around the place. We went for a bit of a drive just to be able to capture some really nice moments there. This looks like a pano that your disc is almost full. Go away. I hope not. I've been unable to drag the files off this computer onto my external hard drive, so I'll try that while I'm doing this presentation. I'll try again, because I don't want this computer to get too full while I'm trying to show you some stitches and panos and things like that. Here you go, that's stitched it together. That's got auto settings on. Just use this boundary warp just to get rid of that excess there, and we can stitch that all together. But have a look at these cloud shapes that we had all around the place. It was bloody brilliant. In fact, that's another pano stitch. Let's just grab this one in particular, and I'm grabbing that one because you see this one here has this blue sky above. I don't really want that, so I'm going to go a bit further forward and go to this one. This is a pano stitch, but I won't stitch it for now. How would I process this image? Well, let's bring a little bit of detail back into that foreground, not a heap, just a little. Because I've photographed this, just have a look guys, because I've photographed this histogram with it as far to the right as possible, but without blowing out the highlights, there's no highlights blown out there, it's actually dragged the shadows away from this left-hand side. If this was touching the left-hand side, we would get all of these blue pixels show up when you tick this triangle at the top of the histogram. It shows where the blacks have actually been crunched. There's no detail in the blacks. We don't want that. Because I've shot to the right as far as possible, I've actually got the room for Lightroom there, pardon the pun, to then just open up the shadows to be able to see the detail in there if I want. If I don't want them, I can just drop the detail in the shadows altogether and not care that it's black. That can nicely frame the rest of this picture. In the meantime, where do I want the eye to go? Probably in the middle. So let's draw a gradient over the sky, double click on the word effect, drag that gradient right down if we want, add some contrast to make that moody, even dehaze if you really wanted. Let's see what dehaze does. Yeah, nice one, all right. Let's drag that right down. But in the meantime, let's get maybe an adjustment brush. I don't often use this, you know that. Get an adjustment brush, square brackets, make it quite large. Let's put a bit of a feather on that as well. Put a bit of feather on it. Let's drag some light into this middle section here, just because we want our eye to be just caught by that nice cloud there. So we can adjust the brightness of that there, maybe adjust here, bit of contrast, bit of clarity into that section there, bit of clarity here as well. We really want that cloud to be a bit brighter than that, so we've gone as far to the right as possible with the white slider, so I've dragged that exposure slider up there. And so we've gone from that shot as the raw file to this photo as the processed version, which I don't think is too bad, and sort of created that mood that I was after. Although I would like to see more of this rain sort of coming out of this cloud here, so I'm not sure if we can bring that out or whether it's just too dense. It looks like it's just too dense. There's no real detail there as such. That's okay. It's not a bad little photograph. It's got some mood to it. Maybe I've over-processed that, particularly in the sky. It's looking a little bit, yeah, it is a raw file. Not bad. Let's press 5 on the keyboard for that one. Okay. The same shot here, same environment. Let's have a look. Just up the whites a little more maybe. No, not the shadows, the whites, just to bring that up a bit. Let's dehaze this to add some grunge. Okay, and let's grab that exposure slider, the adjustment brush I should say, and draw some light into this bottom section here, just to direct the eye down into the bottom section of the print rather than up the top. Okay, I'm very happy with that already. Let's add some clarity for some grunge. You could drop the saturation if you wish, but really it's almost a black and white photograph anyway. It's got a hint of blue in the sky, but that's about it. A very sort of desaturated type image. It was time to get the drone up again, and we had permission from the rangers in order to use the drone, which was fabulous. They were very nice to us. That's got far too much magenta in it. Just the colour doesn't seem right in this image here. But the environment, because of the rain that they've had and the rain they got this week, very green. Never seen Karijini like this before. It's usually yellow and dry and red with these rocks. But this is very green compared to what I'm used to seeing. We maybe even have to bring that into Photoshop rather than Lightroom just to get the right colour there, so to speak, because magenta in Lightroom's not really working for me. Just getting more comfortable as my legs fall asleep here on the steel bench that I'm using in order to do this presentation. Here's the sort of mood of the days as we're driving around. Again, as I said, very unusual to get rain here at Karijini this time of year. So this cyclone was looking like it was going to play a bit of havoc with us. Big puddles starting to form.
Okay, yep.
I need to be drive. Here we go. Just Julie doing a bit of videoing there. Thanks, Julie, as we drove through the puddle. And this was the car, and believe it or not, that's quite clean compared to what it ended up like. Unbelievable. And the poor chefs, they have to chef outside. They cook on barbecues here for the resort. And this is, I'm not sure how this is going to work. They had to set up marquees over the barbecues so that they could chef and prepare the meals because it was just pelting down with rain all night. So that was Tuesday. By Wednesday, we woke to this beautiful sunrise, went for a walk around the resort to photograph these stunning snappy gum trees, beautiful pastel colours. That's again with the iPhone. A lot of wildflower at the moment. This is a very short shrub that grows no more than about a foot high, quite sort of bulbous. And I think this would be a wattle based on the shape and the look of and the colour of that flower growing on the ground there. And so there's the car now starting to look a little bit more dirty, but Sorry folks, ran out of space on my computer with the recording here, so back on track now. I wish I could have shown you what I just had to do. I'll run through it quickly anyway. I plugged in an external hard drive in order to drag the photos off my computer and put them onto the external hard drive. I went into About This Mac, storage, and this was pretty much full. You can see I'm now getting more space available because I'm actually moving the photos off my computer and onto the external hard drive. In order to do that, if you have photographs on your computer and you don't you want to move them, but they've already been imported into Lightroom, you mustn't move them outside of Lightroom. Don't go into Finder or don't go into Windows Explorer and just drop and drag them onto an external disk, for example, because then Lightroom will come up like this with an exclamation mark saying that it can't find the photos because you've moved them from the original location which you imported them from. So what you must do here on the Mac, I plugged in my external hard drive, which is named Backup. I created a new folder called Karijini 2021. I then went into Lightroom here, and in folders, which is where the physical photos are stored, it didn't have this backup, okay? So just ignore that for a second. All the photos were stored here on the hard drive, okay? Now, I then just went in and pressed Add Folder, and when I added the folder, I selected this folder here, Karijini 2021, and clicked Choose. And in doing so, what happened was that now showed up here, okay? If you don't do that, this won't show up, okay? So now I had my folder here on my backup drive, ready to drag these photos in. So I just then clicked on Macintosh HD Karijini 2021. So that's my Macintosh hard drive, the laptop hard drive. I then selected all of the photographs, just click on one, Command A for the people using Mac, and then just simply dropped and dragged them into that backup Karijini 2021 folder. And it's now, as you can see here up the top, moving those files. It's moved 651 of the, and there's now 1171 to go. I hope that all makes sense. We can continue on with the presentation. So apologies for that brief delay, but it wasn't a really delay for you because I've just stitched this little video together. Where were we at? You know, some nice, oh, look at these Belgian waffles that they served us for breakfast. Yum, yum. Geez, we get fed well out here. I tell you what, we did launch the drone again, and just near where we stay, being the Karijini Eco Retreat, is just out of frame here on the right. It's right on the edge of Hemmersley Gorge, one of the many gorges here in Karijini. And here's the shot I got, a very grainy, horrible drone shot, but the purpose is that to show you is that there's lots of water flowing down Joffrey Falls, but have a look at the colour of the water from the runoff from the roads and the escarpment area, etc. The gorges are still looking this colour, and here's another shot driving through. Let's have a look. Driving through these numerous puddles that we're now starting to form up on all the roads. That's a very boring shot. Sorry about that. So into some more of the gorges here to take some photographs, including Dale's Gorge. So Dale's Gorge is another gorge that we go to. It's got this place here called Fortescue Falls, which is these waterfalls here. So they're great for doing some more abstract type photographs, and because they've got these beautiful steps. See this beautiful stepping approach that should play in a video. There we go. That is the iPhone shooting that at 60 frames per second in 4K technology. It is unbelievably clear. So, anyone would think I was getting commissioned from Apple in order to promote their product, but the video is very good indeed. I walked through Dale's Gorge. Dale's Gorge has quite a bit of forestation, etc. It's got a place called Fern Pool. You can swim across this pool and sit underneath the waterfall there. Perfect conditions for photographing Fern Pool, as you can see here, because it was overcast. Most of the time when we're here, we have to wait until very late in the afternoon to photograph Fern Pool because it's in sunshine. And so very lush and green down in there. These are some shots I took with the Nikon D800 with a 70 to 200 mm lens. I love doing these more sort of detail shots using a shallow depth of field just to separate the subjects from the background. And even these detail shots around the trees, etc., are just gorgeous. A bit underexposed here, so just come in here to Lightroom. If I'm feeling a bit lazy, I'll easily just click on the auto function here in the develop module just to brighten this up a little and see what Lightroom wants to do with it to make it look better. There you go, it's not done such a bad job. So the detail's extraordinary. And some of the trees here as well, look at these. Oh, so this was the hike on the way up. When you walk down into a gorge, that's obviously great. It's nice to have a look around, but then you've actually got to walk back up again. And it's a very steep climb up there. So let me see if I've got a shot of that. I thought I took...
Give you some of my money.
I thought I took a shot of that. Here you go. There's the nice steep climb back out of Dale's Gorge in order to get back up to the top. And that tree that I just showed you was this beautiful tree right here. One of those. Okay. I popped this one on Facebook, you may have seen. I popped this photograph on Facebook and I called this one my latest aerial. We were having a bit of a lend of people because in fact this was just the puddle in the car park. Somebody drove through it and all of the water just started to stream down back into the puddle and created that beautiful effect. Literally I'm standing probably a metre above the ground or 2 metres above the ground taking that photograph of the puddle. So I did have a bit of a lend of people, I'm sorry, but it was too good to resist. How is the bark on this tree? Let's do an auto correction just on here. The texture on that bark is just incredible. I'm not sure what it is as such. Some more droning over Joffrey Gorge there with all these beautiful colours and variegations in the colour, but also that water. And of course, again, great droning conditions over the gorges here because we've got overcast skies. Even though I'm dealing with people, I'm dealing with cars, I'm dealing with mining trucks, bloody hell. Sorry about that, guys, but oh, for goodness sake. Every single mining truck here has reverse sensors on it. So you're always going to get that noise. You're always going to get that noise. This is the eco retreat. You can see here on the left, we stay in these beautiful safari tents, and here's the proximity to Joffrey Gorge just here, as I said. And then we're looking north towards the northern section of the park and Hemmersley Ranges in the background here. Okay, let's move on. Some more shots of Joffrey Gorge looking both ways. You can't fly your drone into these gorges because otherwise you lose signal and you don't get your drone back. How's the colour of that water? This is a file that I processed already, and another favourite here as well. Clarity in this one is a little better, although the depth of field is quite shallow because it was so dark by the time we were taking these photos. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is the fact that you never see the skies here in Karijini like this time of year. It really was unusual to have so much cloud and so much rain around. Welcome to day 3 or so. This was Thursday. And by this stage, thankfully, the rain had stopped. We had 82 mil of rain in 2 days. On Wednesday night, it rained from 4:30 in the afternoon till 9:30 at night, so about 5 hours of almost continuous rain. So it really did give the landscape a good soaking, but it also meant that the gorges was flooding. And so ever since we got there on the Monday, the gorges were closed, and they didn't open again until Saturday. Which presented a little bit of a problem for us, and I'll explain that in a second. A little bit more drone action, just looking down on the landscape itself. Beautiful landscape, it really is. Stunning place to be. And these snappy gums are just some of my favourite trees in the world. Beautiful white barked trees. They're called snappy gums because their limbs die off for whatever reason, and they turn black, and then they literally just snap off. They just lose those limbs eventually. And so a little bit more of the, look at this one here, this tree here. I'm not sure what this video shows you, but this is just outside the eco retreat here. Look at the way it's sort of almost wearing this like coat. It's quite unbelievable. Beautiful tree. So you can see that part of the tree has died, so is this limb, and the rest of the tree is still going extremely well. That one's wearing a bit of a mink coat, I called it. How's that bloody raven? Shooting a few, what have we got here? A few more portraits Antonio to use on his Facebook profile, or Tinder profile, whatever. Here's the happy crew here. Because the gorges were closed, we really had to go to Plan B and Plan C, and this is us at the start of the walk up to Mount Bruce, which is the second highest mountain in WA. It's up the top here, it's about 1,250 metres or so. So off we went, climbing up Mount Bruce on a beautiful day. However, the gorge is still flooding with water, no access allowed, so we really did have to try and make ends meet by doing other things. Here's Bruce, here's little Bruce. Little Bruce, the lizard here. What's he doing? And then the climb is quite a sort of steady climb. It's about 5 kilometres one way. There's some difficult spots to negotiate. We didn't go all the way to the top. This section through here is quite hard to get through. I'm not necessarily wanting to take the participants all that way, but what you'll notice here is just how green the landscape is. The Spinifex has just gone berserk with all of this beautiful rain. Over here on the right hand side you have one of the Rio Tinto mines here where they're mining the iron ore. Okay. Here's Bruce number 2, who allowed us to get very close. Gorgeous little animal, about 3-4 inches long. Here he is here. Beautiful little animal, and you notice here, here's Steph just on the ground photographing the lizard, and in fact it stayed so still and then came closer still. Look how far away she is from it. If you can't see it, there's the lizard there and there's her camera. It's like about 30 centimetres away. She got some stunning shots of the lizard there. We had these beautiful wispy clouds around, which was lovely. It was nice to see the sunshine. We hadn't literally seen the sunshine in about 3 days. And then a nice little panorama looking back to where we've walked from along this, you get to see the walking track up Mount Bruce. I think the climb up Mount Bruce is one of the best one-day walks in Australia. It takes approximately 2 hours each way, depending on how fast you like to walk. And they're just stunning views. And this time of year, with the landscape looking so green, it was just sensational. Give us a little bit more brightness there just to show off this particular photograph here of this walk up Mount Bruce. Here's a drone picture showing Mount Bruce again. This is the top of Mount Bruce here, and this is 1,200 metres high. As I said, we walked approximately to this spot here just before the tricky climb up here. In fact, once this loads and once that raven shuts up, you'll be able to see us just standing here. We stopped here to have some lunch and then walked back down again. It was glorious. That's not going to load in a hurry, so bad luck for everyone. Here's a nice shot of us heading back down. Just taken with the iPhone on the panoramic mode. Okay, another shots of my little friend. And of course, being a mine area, you get to see the trains go by, and these trains are just hundreds of meters long. You can get stuck at that. You can get stuck at those crossings for at least 5 minutes or so. That one was moving very fast because it's actually empty. It's going back to the mine. But when they're full, they have 3 locomotives pushing them or pulling them along in order to get all of that iron ore to the coastline there. Quite amazing. Some beautiful patterns in the water as the water's flowing through the creeks here, etc. And then if you get down into the gorges either early morning or late afternoon, you can get some stunning light that reflects off the cliffs above into the water below, and this is one of those spots that we found in Kalamina. Kalamina Gorge was the only gorge that stayed open the whole time throughout the week with the rains. So we did go down there several times in order to take some photographs. These beautiful bubbles, you see this one I haven't developed yet. Some nice little bubbles coming off the water, increase the saturation, increase the dehaze just to bring in some contrast, etc. And then just up the whites just to make that a bit brighter. It's very blue, so let's just increase the temperature there. That's gone ridiculously oversaturated, so let's back off the saturation there. and that's more of a shot that I would be after. Quite a shallow depth of field. We've only got sort of sharpness in the middle there. So I might even look to crop this more as a square rather than anything else. Maybe we do something more like that to make that look good. Just trying to crop out a little bit of that. I'm actually not going to go square. Crop out a little bit more of that stuff that's not in focus. So let's crop through the middle to get what's more in focus, you know what I mean? You see what I'm trying to do here? If you've got a lot of the picture that's out of focus, it becomes more of a distraction. So I'm liking what I'm seeing there. Let's 5-star that and keep going. I think one of the things that you can best do when you're in a place like this is just look with your eyes. And whilst we were just enjoying the late afternoon light, I looked up on the side of the cliff here and saw this beautiful sort of abstractness of the cliff. It reminds me of some sort of like computer generated image as such. Let me just show you the raw file, because I have quickly processed one of these photos and just copied and synced the settings across to the other. This was the original photograph. I'm looking up into the sort of bright sky, so there's a bit of lens flare coming through there, a bit of flare from the sky, so it's a very washed down image. But then just by adding a heap of dehaze, bit of clarity, and then adding some black to the photograph as well, that's just really created the look that I was after, and of course some saturation. Okay, let me just reset this photo to show you what I do. Dehaze a fair bit, clarity just to bring in some grunge, black just to create that nice deep contrast, and then saturation however much you like in order to bring out that colour. Okay. And I really love these beautiful abstract shots now. That's something that I'd easily print and put on the wall. I think that's got so much beautiful detail in it. I really enjoy looking at that for sure. So that was a real surprise. That was really nice to find. Verticals, horizontals, of course. In order to shoot that, here's another sort of version of that same thing. The colours are quite psychedelic, but I quite enjoyed photographing that, that's for sure. Lovely. And of course, late afternoon, you can get some stunning light coming onto the trees that are just sitting up the top of the escarpment area. We like that one. And a nice shot there too of the snappy gums just silhouetted against the sky in the background. Here's Jeff doing his thing, taking some photographs. Jeff Nankervis, for those who know, came on his first multi-day workshop with me. It was lovely to have you along, Jeff. Thanks for coming. And with all of that water now, that new water flowing down in through the gorges, created this beautiful foam effect, and then you get these extraordinary patterns that occur. And with that, I just love shooting this stuff, and I shoot lots of it. Let's reset this just to show you what needs to be done here. Firstly, it's very dark. Okay, the histogram's far too much in the middle, and it is dark simply because I'm hand holding this photograph. I'm on 250 a second at f2.8, ISO 400. I'm really pushing the boundaries in order to get as much out of this as possible without going too high in the ISO. And really what I want to do is increase the contrast. I want to make the whites whiter, but I want to make the blacks blacker to create that nice separation of the foam against the background. So I've done that. You can add some saturation or take out saturation and have it as be a really nice black and white, or you can add a little bit of colour there to get that same effect. So you can see I've shot this vertically, I've shot this horizontally. Look, you could shoot this vertically and then go, well, what would it look like horizontally? Just use the command and then square brackets on the Mac, and it just rotates these at 90 degrees. So you can flip those around, you can do whatever you like. And here are the guys just standing around, just having a little bit of a chat. I think one of the benefits of coming on a workshop, any sort of workshop, is the people that you meet and the new friendships that you get to make. And what you learn from other participants as well is vital. We've had that feedback often where people learn just as much from me or from other participants as they do from me. Beautiful little just blade of grass there sitting on the edge. Just increase the whites, because I want to keep those blacks black, so just increase the whites just to be able to just show off that little shrub just growing on the edge of the gorge there. Some beautiful patterns there. Back to those trees that I showed you at the start of the presentation, just taken from a different angle, and rather than using the wide angle lens on the iPhone, this is with a long lens shot the other way, and it creates a totally different look as well. I just dehaze this a little, add perhaps a little bit of white just to lift that up a bit, and that's done. Just as simple as that. press 5 on the keyboard. Very late in the afternoon, just capturing that last light on these beautiful snappy gums. Unprocessed file, guys. Here's another one here. Let's see if we can do something with this one. Let's increase the whites, decrease the color, the brightness in the sky there. Drop that down heaps. Let's just really mood this up. Let's have the light just be on here, okay? Maybe we just get the adjustment brush again, make it a lot smaller. Square brackets will make it smaller, and just paint in some really nice light into there using the white slider here. And if you want more, no, the exposure, don't touch that. Looks just too rubbishy. Just increase that white slider all the way around there to the right, and let's just really emphasize that beautiful light capturing the moment there. What could we do here? Perhaps a little bit of shadow detail. If you were just worried that that photo was too dark, you could just increase the shadows. You see how that's just opening up the detail, so to speak. And if you wanted to up the saturation, you could, although that's just going to look way over processed. Let's just play with the color adjustment here. A little bit of magenta, I think, is just added, although some people criticize me for too much bloody magenta in my photos this week. Rude. A beautiful prawn linguine. Yum, yum, yum. And then waking up again Friday morning, still no gorges open, unfortunately. Still just waiting with bated breath in order to get these gorges open, so it was time to just drive along the road. Photograph with the drone as the sun first came up over the landscape. Just glorious. And look at these snappy gums in here, just absolutely stunning. That's the mini file that I've made. Let's look at this one here. Look at that. Just wait for that to load. Just a beautiful light that's hitting those trunks first thing in the morning just really makes them stand out against the landscape. Just bloody beautiful. Let's have a look. What's this one do? I might just open this one. Show in Finder. Open this up. It'll play a lot better in QuickTime than it will in Lightroom. Lightroom doesn't play these videos very well at all. It just takes up too much memory. So when I'm shooting with the drone, I'm trying to shoot a mixture of both video as well as stills, pano stitches, things like that. And that's just try and shoot 20-30 seconds of the same stuff. I'm panning around here looking for other photographs, looking for other shots. There's a really nice gum tree back there, Tom. What are you doing? Look at that. So I'm getting these type of shots because I want to use these as an introduction to a promo video that I'll use on the website to help promote future workshops that we have here at Karijini. We're in fact coming back here again in April next year without the rain, and we'll actually be a full workshop there. So we have sold out for 2022, but we're taking bookings now for 2023 if anyone's interested. So back to the photography here. Very wet puddles by the sides of the roads, lots of water around, and then look, my latest landscape, my latest aerial photograph, which is in fact just the side of the car. Just a detailed shot of the side of the car. Here we are taking aerial abstracts, and there's Julie pointing out the best spot to take a photograph to make it look more like that. Okay, I must pop that on Facebook and ask people what they think of that latest. Beautiful flowers out here. This is typically what we saw. Road closed, gorges closed. Obviously, it's very dangerous to be in these gorges when there is rain around. There can be flash flooding. There have been fatalities. So we're very respectful of the fact they were closed. However, this was Friday and this was the last day of our workshop. So what do? Well, we photograph some flowers. This is taken with the iPhone. Again, just the clarity you're able to get and how close you're able to get to these flowers without using a dedicated macro lens is bloody fantastic. And what's this little video of? And then we had to leave Karijini, which was really unfortunate because the gorges still weren't open. These guys hadn't been in to see the sort of premier spots. However, we had a plan B. This is Mount Nameless. So this is at Tom Price. This is one of the spots we like to go to. Jeff doing his thing, looking out over the Pilbara region. So Tom Price is one of the nearby towns here to Karijini, about an hour away. And this is another mine, obviously, here at Tom Price. Beautiful. We can get beautiful sunset photos there. The plan B was this. The plan B, plan C, plan D was to actually head back into Tom Price, stay at the overnight accommodation where we had lined up in order to go in the first place. Typically the next day, being the Saturday morning, we would fly back from Paraburdoo back to Perth and back home. However, because I was running a back-to-back workshops, I had 2 days or 48 hours spare, and what we did was actually we got the participants to delay all their flights because they hadn't seen the premier gorges, and in fact the forecast by the rangers was for the gorges to be open the following day, being the Saturday. So rather than everybody jump on a plane home on the Saturday morning, the day the gorges were all supposed to open up, we actually booked some extra accommodation, rebooked the flights to leave Monday morning, and thankfully they were able to hang around. And in fact, I'll show you what happened. Stayed in Tom Price, went back into Karijini, and thankfully got down into the gorges. Okay, they opened up on Saturday morning. We got there Saturday afternoon, back into Karijini from Tom Price, and was able to get back into the gorges, which was absolutely fantastic. Some of these places are just, unfortunately, what they had missed out on up until then was both Hancock and Weno gorges, and they hold some of the best photographs here at Karijini, and such as this one. That's a place called Handrail Pool, and in fact that's the handrail right there that leads down. So you walk through that gap here in the cliff face that you can't see, and you go backwards down this handrail into this gorge here where you can have a beautiful swim. Yep. And thankfully I talk over a lot of the videos because in fact I don't shoot the videos for popping on YouTube. I actually put sound over the top of them, music over the top of them, in order to be able to create the promo videos, as you know. So I won't play all the videos because of the sound quality. But here, this is Handrail Pool. If you get in here early morning or late afternoon, as we were, very few people around, which is obviously what you want for your photographs. But then also too, lovely light that bounces off all the walls, creating a beautiful, rich effect. This is just taken with the iPhone. Absolutely stunning area. And there's just nothing better than being in these gorges when there's nobody else around. It's very serene. That is Handrail Pool. What's this? Another little shot here. Water just dripping off the side. Beautiful shots walking through these gorges to get to these places. Lots of water running through them. Beautiful trees to photograph along the way. Light that reflects off the gorge walls and creates beautiful colour casts on these trees, etc. Stunning reflections just like this. Where is that photo I want? Yeah, one of these. Look at this. This is just with the crappy iPhone. I have got nice photos here of this as well, but just stunning reflections, beautiful shots to have, and the girls having a great time walking through the water, coming back. There is a little bit of swimming or wading involved, particularly when you've got this much water. In fact, I've been into this gorge, being Weno Gorge, and had no water in this area here at all during one particular year where it didn't rain in the summertime. But this one is very full, of course, with all of the rain that we've had. And here comes Steph. She decided to swim, whereas Julie's deciding to walk through there. Yeah, up. Go up, not too far up, but here you see. There's a bit here apparently.
She's trying to get up to get across there.
Here we go. This is where the magic happens.
Can't do that.
You're right. Julie's trying to negotiate there, and I'm of course there to help in every step of the way. So this is Weno Gorge, and then this is the beautiful view overlooking all the gorges that you can get from a place called Oxa Lookout. These walls are about 50, 60 metres high, incredibly deep. incredibly deep. Oh look, some more food photos. A yummy lava cake. No calories in that whatsoever. Then it was back down into the gorges the following day, being Sunday, the last day of our workshop, of our extended workshop, and there's a great little spot where you go down into a place called Hancock Gorge, and they've nicely set up some ladders for you to get down. And we get down to these gorges very early in the morning because we want to avoid the crowds and get photographs obviously without people in them. So this was about 7 a.m. I know that's not very, very early, but we were already photographing some photographs there at the lookout, and wanted a bit of light to come into the gorges there as well, so we could get some nice shots. A little bit of wading through the water. There's Steph. Oh, Steph did a brilliant promo for me here. Let's listen.
And you're rolling.
Good morning, everyone. A glorious morning. We're in Hancock's Gorge. The gorge is open. It's fantastic. What we're doing is we're learning to do straight swimming. Oh, no, sorry. We're learning to do early morning photography in the gorges, courtesy of Tom Putt swimming photography lesson.
Oh, sorry, I just pressed the wrong button there.
I keep needing to get a Tom Putt hat. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the easiest way of getting through the gorges, and look at what we're seeing. Woo! It's cold!
Look at that.
So that's one of the ways to get through. In fact, you can get around via this wall. Julie and I did that in order to just get this video. Jeff did that as well because he'd much prefer not to get wet than Steph, who's a great swimmer. So this is called the sheep dip. This is not overly deep. You can walk most of it. There's about a 10 or 15 metre section here which you'd have to swim if you chose to swim. And we can put all of our camera gear in dry packs and swim through there in order to get some great shots through into a place called Spider Walk and Kermit's Pool. So let me have a look at these videos here and see if they play properly. This is the Spider Walk. Very slippery underfoot with a lot of water pouring through there. The rocks are very polished and slippery. Sometimes they have black moss on them. So look, it's not easy, but it's not difficult either. It just requires a great deal of care and caution and not to rush. Anyone who is going to participate in our workshops must have a good sense of balance, a little bit of flexibility, strength, etc. You certainly do need to have a good level of fitness to participate fully in this workshop. So if you're thinking of coming along and you're not sure, just have a chat with me and I'll be able to tell you whether or not I feel that it's appropriate for you. Here is Kermit's Pool. This is what you end up at after walking through Spider Walk.
Makes it a bit darker. Is that too dark?
Yeah, you've got to increase the shutter speed then.
So I've got to go left.
Left, yeah. Well done.
And that's Kermit's Pool, hence the name Kermit's Pool, because of the colour there, obviously, of the water. Brilliant. This is a very popular swimming hole during the middle of the day when the sun shines directly in there, and it's full of people enjoying a swim, as they should, but very annoying for us photographers. So it's nice to get there about 7 in the morning, just to be able to have it there for a good hour or so without anybody there. Oh, this is an interesting photograph. So when the floods were coming through here last week, let me just zoom in a little bit here. You can see Steph down here taking a beautiful shot of the waterfall here. Spider's Walk is actually to her right, that very narrow chasm. So you can imagine the water coming down here, down the gorge, and then having to squeeze through that little chasm here that I showed you in that previous video. Well, this is the leftover debris from the flood last week. This is 4 meters vertical height from where Steph is there. So the water was three or so meters above her head. So probably coming up to somewhere around sort of here or here, you can imagine. Or you can imagine the water 4 meters higher than what it is there. Unbelievable during the flood. You can understand why they don't let people go through there. and me being stupid, Antonio getting there's my middle-aged, sexy wet t-shirt portrait shot. I don't even know why I bothered to show that. We did have the opportunity to do some Lightroom, which was fantastic as well, particularly during the middle of the day when it's too hot to get out there photograph and it's too bright. We do sit down with our laptops and have a good opportunity to go through that. And got back to our cars, and Antonio left us a note on the car. Not your traditional note, but just letting us know that he'd gone fishing for breakfast. He'd gone back for breakfast. Off to one of my favourite gorges, which is Hemmersley Gorge, off in the far west of the park, about an hour and a half's drive from the resort. And we got in there yesterday afternoon. The road had opened back up again, and these beautiful wave formations in the gorge itself. Check out the colour of the water here. It's like this incredible golden colour. Beautiful geology, great for swimming as well, and of course home to the famous spa pool, which is this one here. And funnily enough, people who've seen photographs of spa pool imagine this pool to be huge and meters across, but in fact this waterfall is only about a meter and a half high, not even. It's very, very small little confined space indeed. So not the biggest place in the world that you imagine it to be, nonetheless an enjoyable place to photograph. And you can go for a little swim in there as well. How's the detail in the trunks here? Now that golden light is coming because I'm looking into the shadows here, and the wall behind me of the gorge is bathed in sunlight. So all this beautiful light is reflecting off the gorge here into that tree. There's the reflection of that gorge in the water. Lots more photographs here that I'll show you when lots of photographs that I'll show you here when I've had the opportunity more to perhaps work them and spend some more time processing these photographs. In the end, the cars look a little bit disheveled, driving through all of the many puddles that we've had to drive through over the past week or so. But in the end, it was a fantastic end of the workshop. The girls celebrated with a beautiful cocktail there at the resort at the end of the day. And what have we got here? Why is this all mixed up here? These are my other raw photos here. The time must be off on the camera. I must check that. But yeah, a beautiful end to the workshop. This is one of my favourite shots of the whole of this workshop, where we get to shoot sunset overlooking Hemmersley Range. So look, guys, we had a great week, somewhat interrupted by the rain, the very off-season rain that we had thanks to the cyclone. But nonetheless, we were able to get the whole workshop done just by the guys being flexible and being able to stay an extra couple of days, which is great. And I'm so pleased that they were able to get all of the photographs that they came for. And so with that, I'll just merge this little photo together. Yeah, with that, I just wanted to thank you for watching the presentation. I hope that's been enjoyable. I hope I've been able to show you a little bit of what we got up to. If you're coming to Karijini yourself, you'll have a fantastic time. We come in April simply because the water is relatively warm to swim through, and of course there's lots of water in the gorges, which makes for great photography. Later in the year, if you come sort of June, July, August, there's still water in the gorges because most of them are spring fed. However, the water is very cold because the nights get cold here in the winter, and so they're not nearly as pleasant to enjoy with the temperatures there. So as I said, if you'd like to come to Karijini, we'd love to have you come along. It is just, what am I doing there? It is, there's the nice photo there, unprocessed there. It is a great place to come for photography. It's a very unique location, as you've seen from the photographs. It's a great sense of adventure for those looking for that sense of adventure. We stay at the Eco Retreat, which you get your own safari tent, you get your own bathroom. We get very well fed and watered and hydrated, of course. And the guys have just had a brilliant time. The feedback here has been fantastic once again. If you'd like to come and join us here, we are fully booked for 2022, but we are taking bookings for 2023. Just jump on to the tomputtworkshops.com website and you'll see all the details there. But thanks for watching once again. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation and seeing what we got up to this week on our first Karijini workshop. And take care, guys, and look forward to speaking to you again in a couple of weeks' time where I'll be showing you some really unique footage from a heli safari that we're doing up here in the Kimberley region. It's a 6-day heli safari where our only mode of transport essentially is helicopters, and we're flying to some pretty remote places and shooting some pretty remarkable aerial photography. So can't wait to show that to you in a few weeks' time. Keep a lookout for your emails for that. And in the meantime, I want to thank you very much for supporting the Art of Landscape Photography series, The Tribe. Thank you once again. Hope you've got some value from this presentation, despite the kids and trucks and Corellas and Ravens and everything else that I've had to contend with here outside of the shopping centre here at Paraburdoo. And I want everyone to take care, have fun, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Bye.